An amazing session with Dr. Mike Brass, who's an expert in GRC, senior professional with many years experience within information security. I've got him on today because he's going to share his story. So straight over to you, Mike. Tell me, how did you get into cybersecurity?
Well, thanks for having me on here. Let's start with that. The getting into cyber itself, it was almost an accident. It was a
All right.
nice, it was a wonderful little accident and a little bout of self-initiative in this. So I had been in IT for a large number of years. I had actually obviously done cyber. So as you know, I make the distinction between information security and cybersecurity, with cybersecurity being the subset. So for any listeners, if I use cybersecurity, I'm just referring to, in my view, IT done correctly, and information security being that overarching umbrella on there. So I had been systems administrator. I never did help desk. I was very lucky enough in my first role to go straight into the second line and continued on from there. In January 2009, I got appointed as one of the youngest IT managers in London for what is a very prestigious now think tank dealing with all levels of the civil service up into 10 Downing Street. It was just common sense to me to do IT security correctly. It didn't make sense to do anything but that. Unknown to myself there at the time, I was obviously doing cybersecurity as part and parcel of all of this. Then after 8 years, I was headhunted for a company called Dialite, a global manufacturing company. Mainly does products for heavy industry, street lighting, and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. I started there, and one of the first actions I got told by the director of IT, who was based out in the USA, is that Ernst & Young's doing a cybersecurity audit of the American and UK operations. Also, obviously, I sat down with them for a couple of days, answering various questions, running through the setup as I understood it, etc. And I was intrigued at how their questions were beyond technology, how it was encompassing a lot of different arms of the business, from HR to you name it. It was actually pretty thorough questionnaire. The IT director, unfortunately, shortly after had to leave the organization, and the report was languishing there. No one was doing anything. One of the things in the report was that a security officer should be actually appointed, a dedicated security officer. I went back through the report. Actually, I thought with my academic skill sets and everything else, the wide variety that I bring to bear on the job, this is actually pretty damn interesting. It's beyond merely let's make another Hyper-V server. Let's build another switch and this sort of thing. So I noticed that the CFO was in the office that day, sat two desks behind me in an office. I picked up the report, knocked on the door. She said, "What can I do for you?" I sat down. Nobody's looking after this. She said, "Okay, are you interested?" I said, "Yes." So right, now you're in charge of the global security for the company. And so in under 2 minutes, walked out of there, and my entire career trajectory turned on those 2 minutes. I had, at that point, no certifications as commonly understood for information security or cyber security. It was merely that I had 17 years worth of experience, and of that, over 8 years worth as an actual manager and interacting with all levels of company. So that's where it went from there. That's how I got into it all. And then yes, I started doing some of the common certifications and taking my knowledge from there.
So that's interesting that again, somebody that's come from a IT support, system administration support background. So you understood obviously from the ground up, which is definitely very helpful. I mean, everybody that I spoken to that's come from a formalized support background finds the transition into cyber easier because they understand the IT estate that you're trying to secure, as well as the other sides of the business much easier. Often they like yourself, don't really do much in terms of certifications. They do them afterwards. I think it was one of the people that we had on talked about doing the CISSP recently, rather than I think it's really crazy how they even award it to people with no experience. I mean, it says you need 5 years experience, so it doesn't make any sense to me. But so did you then do any, once you were in that role, did you then do some certifications in whilst in that role or subsequently to try and help you understand cybersecurity and information security better?
I did the Security Plus from CompTIA.
Yep.
Although it's regarded in the industry as entry level, I think the breadth of it is actually pretty damn good, particularly when you combine it with your experience. And bearing in mind, I'm also bringing a lot of academic experience and
Mhm.
academic mindset to everything on project management, research, talking to stakeholders from directors all the way downwards. And then I thought, let's go on and do CISM on this. So I was planning to do CISM, and I got headhunted for the company that currently is still employs me at the moment. And I was headhunted there to start the information security function and to completely revamp the IT function in the company. And one of the biggest projects to start out with was to co-project manage the implementation of ISO 27001. And in May of the following year, so that was 2020, that's when I got my CISM. And then I launched almost straight away, to my wife's dismay, into studying for the CISSP, which she wanted me to take a couple of months break. I had said yes, and then nah. I'm going to open the book and I'm going to make a start on all of this. Um, Partly because I was feeling imposter syndrome, wrongly, but I wanted to have that particular certification behind my name to help demonstrate. And I got it. I flew through it in the December. I remember walking out of the exam. It stopped at 100 questions there, and I thought, I've failed this. I've failed. These questions are a complete clusterfuck. Somebody was on hallucinations writing all of these questions. Get handed my paper. I stood and read it. As I'm walking out of the door of the testing center door, open it and see, actually, I aced this damn thing on here. No, and carried on. And I've got other certification. I got CRISC. I'm also the data privacy protection officer, so I've done data privacy, the CIPPE for UK
Yep.
and EU regulations and directives, because I'm a big proponent that the data privacy side and the information security side are merging, not into
Yeah.
one, but there's extreme heavy overlap between, particularly with DORA, NIS2, etc., underway. And then I've done leadership courses as well, for CISO level, or at least senior leadership security level on there. So I'm moving into that. And the next bit that I want to do is try and do a mini executive MBA at some point in the next couple of years.
Excellent, excellent. And I think I mean, that's giving a good overview that basically, like many people, you did a lot of certifications once you're actually in a role, rather than a ton of certifications beforehand and then try to. I think, and again, I'm a big advocate that I think experience trumps any certifications that you do, because book learning will never ever match actual physical practical experience. So leads me very nicely into the final segment. And what advice would you give entry level people trying to break into the industry? So, the floor's yours. Tell us what you think.
I'm a big proponent of the government apprenticeship scheme for people to get in to cybersecurity. That is for people who are coming out of schools, who are coming out of universities, who are basically in the late teens, early 20s, perhaps mid 20s. It is a fantastic route to go through. You get paid, you get the training, and once you're through that program, which can take anywhere from 13 months to 2 years, depending on how intensive you're actually doing it, you come out with a great set of skills on the other side, and you have got the hands-on experience to see whether you want to change companies or whether there's actually an opening in your existing company and you're continuing on. If you're later in life, perhaps you can go down that route if you wish. There's absolutely nothing stopping you. But the first bit of advice is always get out that pen and paper, map down what your skills happen to be. Next, go to the IC squared, or IC2 as it's now called, website. Look at the domains for CISSP, look at it in detail, and map your skills across. Do that skills mapping. And also, because cybersecurity and information security is not just that goddamn penetration testing. Take a look. It is even sales, it's project management, it's analytics, it's all sorts of managerial roles. You can also be a systems administrator, but the role itself, don't get hung up on the titles, but the role itself could be equipping you with a large number of skills, enabling you to move on in a year or two's time. So don't pigeonhole yourself.
100%. And I think there's the UK Cybersecurity Council. They've actually got now, they've created pathways and a framework. So there's 16 different career paths and specialisms within cybersecurity. I'll put a link in the once I post your video, I'll put a link to that. So any entry level people that want to see what the paths are. But yeah, I'm a 100% massive advocate in apprenticeships. And I genuinely think that that's a much more effective way for people to get into the industry. So thank you very much there. And much appreciated for your time, Mike, and really like your insights. So thank you for your insights today.
Again, thanks for having me.
Right.